Thanks for staying with us. So according to reports, the 5 most common types of diabetes, disabilities actually, in Nigeria are visual impairment, hearing impairment, physical impairment, intellectual impairment, and communication impairment. Many of them face a number of human rights abuses, including stigma, discrimination, violence, and lack of access to healthcare, housing, and education. Joining us on the show is a broadcast journalist, sound engineer, public speaker, and a gender and disability rights advocate, Oluwatomisin Adeyefa. Welcome to the show, madam.
Thank you very much for having me.
To join the conversation, you can call us on 081-270-53687, also 091-390-76948. You can tweet us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag your view TVC so we can read your tweets. Thank you for joining us again. So we always like to review the plights of people living with disabilities in the country, because we know that even our president recently signed a bill into law in January. We're hoping that things have changed. In your view, are you beginning to see changes? Yes, some policies changing, but have you started seeing implementation on the sides of Nigeria, on the parts of Nigerians?
When it comes to implementation, the implementation hasn't started proper. In fact, we still have a very long way to go when it comes to plight of persons with disabilities in Nigeria. And then I'm hoping that at the expiration of the 5 years train course set by the presidency, you know, they will begin to enforce the act, and then we can move on from there. But to say implementation, wow, we still have a very long way to go.
What do you think can be, what advice, I guess, can we give towards encouraging proper implementation of these policies? What can we encourage, not just government, but individuals, you know, that we interact with that can help towards implementation of these?
Okay, so like you said, it's not just about the government, it's about you and I, it's about the media, it's about parents, it's about friends, it's about the society, it's about institutions and all of that. So it means that all of us must come together to see that persons with disabilities are humans, you know, and they should be treated as such. Immediately we have that at the back of our mind, implementation will come smoothly. In a case where you have the government is saying, okay, we have an act, we have a law protecting persons with disabilities, and some private institutions will still be doing their own at the side, you know, against that law and cutting corners just to say, okay, we don't have these provisions, we can't make these provisions here and there and all of that. So it means that we all must play our part right from the beginning, the family, friends, the society, the church, the mosque, religious organizations, institutions, education. Everybody must play their part. And it is easy if only we begin to see persons with disabilities as human that they are.
Okay, so for me, I think that sometimes I see the government's approach towards many change they want to achieve very autocratic and dictatorial. Like, oh, this is the law. You must have access way for persons with disability. You must do this. You have between this and this to do it. How about we follow the approach of love and genuine care, where the campaign is to make everybody feel like I'm my brother's keeper, and if there is someone around me who is a person with any disability, I should take that ownership of that person. Wouldn't that be a better approach to galvanize the change that persons with disability need beyond canvassing for, let's make it compulsory for all companies to employ these people, fiat?
Like I said earlier, I said it takes you and I to begin to see persons with disabilities as humans. You know, when we begin to see them as human, definitely you will love a human being like yourself. You will care for someone that you consider a human being like yourself. You treat that person with respect, with dignity, with, you know, utmost love at the end of the day. So it's just that in a place where you do not have a law, sin abounds. So I think the law is just to put us in check as humans that we are, because if there is no law, if there is no guiding principle, we tend to fall short of those acts that we are supposed to enforce.
Right, go ahead.
So, you know, I'm in the educational space, and one of the things that UNICEF and other international bodies have advocated for a while now is inclusive education for young children, so that in the typical classroom, even if you have persons with disabilities, you're able to mend your curriculum in such a way that you handle everybody. But I worry that even when we do that in education, the society is not prepared to handle them when they come out of school. Now, what sort of advocacy do you think a lot of us need to take up? How do we start, creating awareness that people with disabilities, they may have those disabilities, but it doesn't stop them from truly living their lives. How best do you think we can push this message out there?
Okay, like what I'm currently doing now, we are campaigning against disability-based violence. We are saying that persons with disabilities, apart from their gender, they are also susceptible to being violated, being abused based on their disability. So we say that any kind of abuse, any kind of violence you mete out to anyone based on their disabilities, disability-based violence, it means that, whatever you do, contrary to what you should do to a human being, you have violated that person. So if a child, for instance, is being deprived of access to education, or you want to enroll a child with disability in school and that child is being deprived, that child is not allowed to participate like his or her peers, it's a kind of violence, and it could have effect on that child. It could have effect on that child. It could make the child develop psychological trauma. And you will notice that so many persons with disabilities are out there going through one form of emotional stress, emotional trauma or the other. It is bad that you have a disability, a part of your body is not functioning as it should function. It is worse now when people begin to discriminate against you, when people begin to violate you, emotionally abuse you because of your disability.
Right.
There's
always that thin line, which I'd like you to help us address. Because people want to support those living with disability. But there's always that thin line of, am I patronizing or am I pitying? And people don't want to feel like, don't pity me because I'm normal. But at the same time, I also want to consider the fact that you may not have ability in this area. So where do we draw that line? How do people work with people living with disability better such that they don't feel pity?
Okay, let me paint a scenario to you. I got to K2 this morning and, I want to get in a pep down here. And somebody approaches me and said, hey, sorry, okay, what do you want? That scenario is pity. Now, if someone approached me and said, hello, please, where are you going? Do you want to cross the road? Do you want to... That scenario is empathy. The person has, differentiated between my disability and the fact that I'm a human being that needs assistance. Some of us, even without disability, we need guidance. We need assistance to do certain things. So immediately you take away the disability and see that person as a human being. You are able to relate without, adding this disability, discrimination against it. So it's always safe to say that as much as there's a thin line between sympathy and empathy, we all can empathize if we truly want to empathize. Right. And we can, pity people when we truly want to, it's a pity.
I think that, at least both are still better than not understanding outright discrimination. But I also feel that, well, maybe we should catch people young. Maybe when we reach out to children, from when you're small, you're already made to understand these people are human beings and they need your empathy, not pity. They don't need you to look down on them, but you should support them in every way you can. We can encourage that culture from ground up.
Right. Let me go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. All right, so before we break, I think Mariam had a question.
Yes. So I know we're talking about empathy and sympathy, and Toko mentioned something that is better than discrimination anyway, but I think what is even better than empathy or sympathy is just to have things working so that people living with disabilities can live a dignified life. So if you were to give us like a scorecard in Nigeria, what would you say our score is? And if there's any, and is there anything in particular that we're doing right for now and that we can work towards? I know there are so many things that are wrong right now, but is there anything that as a country we're doing right, or or in Lagos State that is doing right towards, and then if we can put our attention there and see how it's done, we can replicate it in the other places as well?
Okay. So let me pick Lagos State as a case study here. I think fair enough, Lagos State, I will give them a 6/10. And I'll give them a 6/10 because, there's an office responsible that is saddled with the responsibility of, you know, having the issues of persons with disabilities brought forward to the executive and legislature, which is the Lagos State Office for Persons with Disabilities. And the governor is, you know, intimate with that office, is always looking for ways to make sure that persons with disabilities are given an opportunity. They're given equal opportunity here in Lagos State. You know, we've had cases of the governor releasing grants, the governor, you know, giving opportunity for employment for persons with disabilities, and he's doing so much more. Right. But a lot still needs to be done, and it also begins with our own orientation as a people. You know, how do we lift the burden of emotional stress, the burden of psychological trauma off this person, so that when the governor is giving you grants to do a business, you will do that business as a person with disability and you will thrive. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So it also begins with we not discriminating, we giving equal access, equal opportunity. Equity, yes, because we can be equal and not equitable at the end of the day. So equity is the right word to say that, okay, if I'm building a complex, for instance, I have to make sure that I provide access for persons with disabilities to be able to come into that complex, perhaps rent a shop, perhaps, you know, do business, buy and sell in that same space and not feel, you know, left out or secluded of that arena.
Let's talk about your personal story for a bit, because I believe that if we have people coming up to share their stories, it will open the eyes of Nigerians to see where they can fit in, to support you. You are a very intelligent, beautiful woman.
Thank you.
Yeah. And what sort of help did you get along your journey? You're a broadcast journalist. What sort of help did you get along your journey? How did people support your journey, your school? Can you give us a bit of that?
Okay. I got blind in 2009. February 2009, and after I got blind, I remember the consultant who attended to me, you know, at the last minute after I lost my sight said, okay, there is a school for the blind, he could refer me to, and I could go there. I went to the school. It's a primary school in Surulere, the Pacheli School for the Blind, but I was way above the age they could admit as a student. So I got turned back and we started looking for information. And this is where a lot of things still needs to be done in Nigeria. Information is not all that out. I can tell you that there are 1,000,001 children who are still being locked up in their houses, who their parents are still locking them up somewhere because they don't know where to take them to. They don't know who to turn to for help when it comes to persons with disabilities. As a matter of fact, in some cultures, you don't come out and say your child has a disability. Yeah. It's a shame on the family. It's something that brings condemnation on the family. It's like the gods have cursed you and you have done something grievous. So it is easy for those parents to just lock up those children and maltreat them. Some children are being beaten day and night because they are of disability, which of course it's not their fault. It's not even their doing. If they were to choose differently, they would say they wouldn't want to be a child with a disability. So we started asking around. We started asking, and we got the information that, okay, the federal government has an institution here in Lagos. And that's the only institution that serves as a vocational training center built by the federal government of Nigeria to cater for blind persons in Nigeria.
The entire country?
Yes, that's the only federal government vocational training center for visually impaired persons in Nigeria.
Wow.
So what we did was, what they do in that institution is they have a quota from each state. So for instance, each state is to bring 3 students, visually impaired trainees, to come train, learn how to read Braille, learn typewriting, learn how to farm, learn how to make art and craft and all of those things. So I had to go back to my state of origin, which is Osun State, and I had to go there and, you know, ask to be referred to that institution, which I eventually got the referral in 2010, and I got admitted into that institution. I tried going into Lagos, and you know what happened to Lagos? In fact, Lagos was already overbloated.
Wow.
They had more than the quota allocated to them yearly. So getting a slot in Lagos State is very, very difficult. And I had to go back to Osun State where I got that referral. So after I got the referral, I mean, I spent a year learning how to read and write as a blind person, trying to rehabilitate myself and rehabilitate myself as a blind person, because of course it's not going to be very easy. And I got the support of my family, most especially. I mean, which is the basis of any support you can get. If your family are behind you, whatever anybody says outside, immaterial, you really literally will not take it to heart, because you have people who have got your back. So after I finished there, and then I had to move on because I wanted to go to school, I wanted to be educated. Before then, I was a science student, and as a science student, you cannot, as a visually impaired person, you cannot do a science course. It's not possible because you need your eyes to do certain things. Yeah, you need your eyes to be in the laboratory. You need your eyes to do a lot of things. So I had to, you know, rewrite my GCE. I had to do JAM all over again. And then the trouble continued because, I mean, I got to the Polytechnic where I wanted to go to the Moshood Abiola Polytechnic. And I wanted to get my post-UTME from. And, you know, I met a staff of that same institution who said, you shouldn't be here. You should go back to where they accept your kind.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
Literally, to any other person, that word would have just, you know, made me feel very bad. And then perhaps I would have just turned back and went home. But because of the determination that comes with me as a person, I said, where do they accept my kind? I said, you go to Oyo now, special. That is where they accept your kind. That's to tell you that people, when they say you are going to a special school, they feel, oh, there are certain schools. It's not like the inclusive education we were talking about. I said, they don't have provision for persons like me.
We have to wrap up, but I think your story is quite profound. It reminds us the fact that we do need to have empathy. The government's policy must be in place, and after the policy, implementation of the people and the acceptance. Because I can somewhat relate, because I was on wheelchair for about 4 months and I had to go to school. So I wheel my chair from my house to the bus stop back in the US, and the bus pulls down the lever. I come in, I sit on the disability point, I get to school, because by the time I get to school, my schoolmates are already there. They help me into the campus and I begin to wheel myself. So I understand what you mean, that society hasn't totally accepted, and we need to begin to use this platform to let Nigerians understand that we must empathize and be there to help those who are living with disability. But thank you very much, madam.
Thank you
for coming to the
much.
show. We hope. Is there anything you're working on that we would like us to know about?
Yes. We're working on the Amplifying Voices project, which is, you know, sensitizing the public and persons with disabilities that disability-based violence, emotional violence, psychological violence, such as name-calling, body shaming, discrimination, beating, you know, all of those things contribute to the emotional strength of a person with disability. And then we all must come together to make sure that the disability-based violence we're talking about is brought to the barest minimum. The truth is, see a person with disability as a human being.
Simple.
That's the most important thing. When you consider that person as a human being, you treat the person as such with dignity, with respect and love.
Thank you.
That's all. Thank you so much for being. That's all we can take on this segment. When we come back, we'll move on to other topics. Stay with us. We'll be right back.